Hey guys, I'm just going to continue with the same demo here because I'm pretty sure this wound up being a bit of a long one. Today I'm going to talk in defense of stalemates. I know a lot of people really hate stalemates, particularly casual players get this idea that 5CP is like either a roll or a stalemate in casual play, which I don't know if I disagree with necessarily, but I think that's just kind of pubs in general. Like, if you told me, I've definitely stalemated on bad water last more than I've stalemated on any point in process in a 12v12 pub, but that's just me. But anyway, even competitive players complain about stalemates very often, and stalemating is oftentimes, touted as one of the major problems with the format in general. And I'm going to say stalemates are actually good to have in moderation for a few reasons. So for starters, let's actually define what I mean by a stalemate. And I mean an even Ubers stalemate, where basically each point is settled. So for example, this won't be a stalemate because it's actually dishad because our med died and theirs didn't. But if we imagine it's even Ubers here, then the blue team would have our second and the red team would have mid. And the other team would really have no strong advantage to fully push off of because both teams have Uber. So as a result, you're not really... Well, it's not that you're not incentivized to push, because in fact you are incentivized as the team with control of mid to make something happen, because if the 4-minute round timer hits 0 and you don't do anything, then you reset to a new mid fight, which, to translate means you have to fight for the point you already had solid control of, which is usually a disadvantage. Or not a disadvantage, but rather a bad thing. So usually the team with control of mid is the ones who are trying to make something happen. But because things are so even as far as, player count and the Ubers are concerned, you can't just push, usually. So what do? Well, this is the kind of environment that sacking became popular in. And the idea of giving up the player advantage for some attempt at getting Uber advantage, as in you sack a soldier in and try and force the other team's Uber. There are multiple different ways to go about this, and you'll see any variety of things from just really deep pressure, in some case trying to just get through the doors, and apply a ton of pressure, bait out exchanges, things like that, and then send the soldier. Usually sacking always accompanies some form of pressure from the non-sacking players, because that's the best way to do it. You want to actually make the other team uncomfortable, make it so that their scouts are occupied or weak, or their positioning is bad, or their med is already weak before the sack. Basically, any of these conditions make your sack more successful, generally speaking. So obviously pressure is a big deal, but sometimes pressure entails like taking space through doors and doing kind of a somewhat of a dry push. This is why I said, kind of earlier to, sacking and dry pushes being completely separate, because pressure is pressure. But anyway, it can take so many forms, as I've talked about, and even the number of players that you sack can take different forms. Usually the roamer is involved, but if the roamer's, not available or took a lot of damage and can't really sack, then it could be the pocket going. It could be both soldiers. Double soldier bombs or double soldier sacks are not particularly rare. Definitely risky, but it's a risk-reward assessment, basically. Sometimes it's the flank, so scout soldier. Usually into last, it's the flank, but into last you can see a variety of different sacking options. You can get spies involved, for either stabs or sapping the gun to bomb a soldier in as well. 3-mans and 4-mans are becoming very popular nowadays, and for really good reason. And I'm surprised that not every invite team is doing this at this point, because obviously you want to avoid the reset, but giving up the other team's second, you still are in the driver's seat. And, if your previous sack attempts weren't really working out, and you're getting down to like that last minute or something before you have to reset to mid, then just sacking so many players that regardless of whether you get the force or not, the other team basically has to push out, is a really effective way of kind of resetting that clock so that you can keep going. And even if you don't get the force, you're still in a pretty decent position because, again, you have mid. You're kind of in the driver's seat. But if you get the force, then it's especially nice because now you just get to dry push into 2 or take the pop through or whatever. Basically, you have add into second. And sometimes if you're fast with that, then that turns into add into last and you have a real opportunity to score a round. But anyway, 4-man's quite nice. But there's so many different sacking options. And this is kind of the first point, which is that stalemates kind of... they breed a really large variety of strategies, which I appreciate. On top of that, it also very much emphasizes strategization, where, for example, having a good strategy on a mid fight will help you, just without a doubt. However, you know, having a good strategy can fail if someone just hits a really nice shot. It's, you know, a very dynamic team fight scenario, so it's strategy is not as strongly emphasized as some other elements, which I think is totally fine. I think that there's a good balance to be found, but having a kind of game state which favors strategy more than some other things, I think is good. It's interesting, and I like seeing what a team can cook up during a stalemate because that shows me you know, how good they are in these situations, how good their strategy and team play can be. And also, as far as like coordination goes, it's different kinds of coordination where during a team fight or a transition or any of these very messy, active, dynamic situations, there's very much a strong element of coordination at play and team coordination, but it takes the form of, you know, moment by moment making, you know, decisions and communicating what's going on, who to kill, things like that. Versus in a stalemate, it very much still emphasizes coordination, but in a different kind of way. It's more about setting up a play, making sure everyone's on the same page, and doing everything you can in order to, you know, successfully execute a plan. And I think that the variety in, you know, team coordination is interesting. So again, stalemates in moderation absolutely introduce these new elements to play that I think are very nice. I also had some other notes here, just to make sure. On top of that, it's kind of related, but just different skills are being expressed in a stalemate. Being able to think about and diagnose a hold and how to break it is an important element of breaking stalemates. And I think that's an important skill to have, and I like that that's emphasized. So, that being said, even like defensively, a lot of different skills are being, you know, stressed and emphasized, like being able to coordinate spam on doors, communicating where relevant threats are, like a sniper and whatnot, and things like that is all really important. So I do like the skills that get emphasized when the game slows down, and it shows who's really methodical, who really thinks about the game, and can tease apart a defensive hold. And a lot of the time it does show who falters in that. And I do think a lot of the time, not to call people out necessarily, but the people who really complain about stalematy games, it's one thing if you're the team that's defending and the other team just doesn't know what to do, because again, they kind of control the pace. You can only do so much with your counter sacks. So yeah, that does kind of suck. But if you're the team consistently with mid, if you're the team that just can't break a last, if you're the team that can't break into the other team's second, sorry to say, but that's just on you. Like, are you even 4-manning? Are you considering your options? Are you double sacking into second? Or are you basically just doing very uninspired, low pressure single and double sacks into second and last, and then getting mad when you just get reset over and over again? Because I do think that the attacking teams, while yes, you often have to give something up to get a ton of value on your sacks or more consistent sacks, as you would expect, because it's risk reward. You have to take some risk for a higher chance of reward. But yeah, like you can take those risks. You can very easily be double sacking into second and, you know, playing that dynamic, you know, exchange baiting on the counter sack, for example. And I would think that teams that like faster paced games and don't like stalemates would actually enjoy that a lot, in fact, of being able to, you know, turn what was a sack into suddenly a very, very dynamic situation for the counter sack, where the other team might just want to dry push, but you might be playing very forward, very aggressive with your Uber in order to stuff them in the door and halt that progress and whatnot. You can very easily see how just a simple decision can turn the game into something much more dynamic than just we send a soldier, they send a soldier, and you just hope the soldier gets a good bomb off. So when you're in the driver's seat, when you're that team with control of mid, the pace is very much on you, and how dynamic the game is very much on you. So when people complain about stalemates, when they're in those positions, I really don't have a lot of sympathy. But yeah, it's definitely something that that gets brought up. What else? Decision making, we've kind of already talked about. I think the last thing I can talk about, oh my days, what a nuclear bomb. I guess the last thing we can talk about is that I very much like the contrast in pace between very just screaming fast team fights and transitions into slow, methodical decision-making stalemates. I like that contrast. I like how you can be on a door pressuring, not overcommitted or anything, but just trying to get good pressure in for your sack. And instead of a force, you get a drop or something like that. Or let's say into last, yeah. So you send a soldier into last, you're pressuring the doors. They have a gun up, so it's pretty difficult to... well, let's say you actually took out the gun, so your soldier sack's more successful, which again is something that you have to strategize, you have to spot it, you have to figure out a plan, you have to spam players off the doors. A lot of strategy stuff and coordination and just interesting things going on, but whatever. So you're on these doors, you're trying to pressure, not really getting much space because, again, it's last, but your soldier gets the drop. Not just the force, but drops the other medic. And then literally on a dime, sometimes, if that's the only pick that the other team gets, teams will already be through those doors using. And the pace will just flip instantly. And that can totally happen. And I really appreciate the fact that having stalemates in this game not only emphasize different skills, not only reward different, reward strategy and reward actually thinking about the game. They reward so many different skills and so many different forms of skill expression than just non-stop fighting and dry pushing and transitions all the time. But also the actual difference in pace gives a wider variety of gameplay. So when I keep saying in moderation, I do mean that, because I've definitely played games that are just... you have a dry fight or a transition every, couple minutes, if that. And this is more so a problem on the old config as well, where it's like a 10-minute round timer, because then if you're against a team that sucks at sacking, you are actually in prison. Nowadays, it's really not so bad. It's pretty easy to put up with like 4 minutes of stalemating if they're particularly bad at sacking. But, yeah, I've definitely played those just perma-stalemate games, and it can be really, really tough to put up with at times. But stalemates in moderation, mixed in with the faster pace things, I do think is a happy medium. I don't think that all just speed and all dynamic kind of game states and team fights and stuff like that all the time is the best. I do like a little bit of methodical thinking. I do like figuring out what's going on. And oftentimes, especially as a demo, I really like pressuring. Like, into process second, I love the pressure. It's so nice. It feels like you can get so much value. And that's very rewarding, being able to kind of figure out where people like to stand, what people are doing, and yeah. So anyway, I think that's all I have to talk about as far as stalemates go. In defense of stalemates, I do like the variety of gameplay they provide. I do like the variety of pace. I like the different emphasis on, or the emphasis on different forms of team coordination and different forms of strategy than just a team fight would have. So yeah, I do like stalemates. I think they're overall Nice to have. So anyway, let me know in the comments how wrong you think I am, how much you hate 5CP. I will read them, whether I like to or not. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.